He raised his hand and slapped a nurse in front of the entire hospital staff. What he didn't know was that one phone call was about to end everything he had built. Dr. Marcus Reed had been at Riverside General Hospital for 11 years. 11 years of saving lives, collecting awards, and walking those hallways like he owned them. People stepped aside when he walked past. Nurses lowered their voices. New staff were quietly warned, don't get on his bad side. And for 11 years, nobody said a word. But on one Tuesday morning, all of that was about to change. Because of one woman, one moment, and one secret that nobody in that building knew about. This is the story of what happens when a man mistakes silence for weakness. Her name was Diane Carter, 28 years old, 4 years into her nursing career, all 4 of them at Riverside General. The kind of nurse who remembered patient names, who stayed late without being asked, who learned the names of the janitors and the security guards. Not because she was trying to impress anyone, just because that's who she was. That Tuesday started like any other. Diane was on the morning shift, 3rd floor general ward. Around 9 a.m., a patient named Mr. Harlow, 67 years old, admitted for routine observation, suddenly started showing signs of a severe allergic reaction. His oxygen levels were dropping fast. The attending physician was 2 floors down, unreachable for the next few minutes. Diane didn't wait. She assessed the situation, called it correctly, and administered epinephrine. Then she alerted the team, stabilized the patient, and had everything under control before the doctor even arrived. Mr. Harlow survived because of what she did in those 3 minutes. That should have been the end of the story. A nurse did her job. A patient lived. Everyone goes home. Except Dr. Marcus Reed had other plans. He showed up on the floor 20 minutes later, not to check on the patient, but to make a point. Word had already spread that a nurse had stepped in and handled a critical situation, and for some reason, that bothered him deeply. He found Diane at the nurse's station writing up her report. In front of at least 15 colleagues, he started in on her. His voice was loud enough that people 2 rooms away could hear. He told her she had no business making that call, that she overstepped, that nurses were there to assist, not to make decisions, that her kind of recklessness gets people killed. Her kind. Those 2 words landed differently. Everyone heard them. Everyone felt them. But no one moved. Diane stayed calm. She looked at him and said simply, "I followed protocol. The patient is stable." And that's when he slapped her. Not a shove, not a grab. An open hand slap, right there in the hallway, in front of everyone. The room went completely silent. Diane did not cry. She did not scream. She looked at him for a long moment, then turned, set her pen down on the desk, and walked toward the elevator. Marcus Reed fixed his coat and walked the other way like nothing had happened. Now here's the part of the story that nobody in that hallway knew. Diane Carter's full name was Diane Carter Osee, and her father was Dr. Emmanuel Osee, the regional director of healthcare. Operations, the man who oversaw every hospital in that district, including Riverside General. Diane had never told anyone at work. Not her closest colleagues, not her supervisors. She had worked hard to make sure her career stood on its own. She didn't want the title. She didn't want the protection. She just wanted to do her job. But that morning changed things. She didn't call her father from the elevator. She didn't call him at all, actually. She went home, wrote a formal complaint, documented every detail, the words, the witnesses, the timestamp, and submitted it through the official hospital channel. The complaint landed on the desk of the hospital administrator by noon. By 2 p.m., it had reached the regional director's office. By 3 p.m., Dr. Emmanuel Osee was reading his daughter's name on a misconduct report and learning what had been done to her. What happened next moved faster than anything that hospital had seen in years. An emergency review was launched within 24 hours. Not just about the slap, though that alone was enough, but about Dr. Reed's conduct over the past 11 years. Once the investigation opened, people started talking. Nurses who had stayed silent for years came forward. Staff members who had been humiliated, belittled, and pushed around. They all had stories, and suddenly those stories had somewhere to go. The pattern that came out was not pretty. 11 years of complaints that had been quietly buried. 11 years of people too scared, too junior, or too tired to fight back. 11 years of a man walking those hallways like he was untouchable. It turned out he was very touchable. Within 2 weeks, Marcus Reed was suspended pending a full disciplinary hearing. His hospital privileges were frozen. His cases were reassigned. The colleagues who had watched him walk away that Tuesday morning were now being interviewed by investigators. He hired a lawyer. He tried to frame the slap as a reaction to stress, as a misunderstanding, as something blown out of proportion. He suggested that Diane had provoked him, that she had been insubordinate. Nobody was buying it, because 15 people had seen exactly what happened, and every single one of them told the same story. The disciplinary panel met 3 weeks after the incident. Diane showed up, sat at the table, answered every question clearly and without emotion. When they asked her why she hadn't mentioned her father's position, she said something that stuck with everyone in that room. She said, "Because it shouldn't matter whose daughter I am." What happened was wrong either way. Dr. Marcus Reed was dismissed from Riverside General. His medical license was placed under formal review by the state board. The hospital released a public statement acknowledging a failure in their reporting culture and announced a new zero-tolerance conduct policy covering all staff, regardless of seniority. For the first time in 11 years, the nurses on the third floor didn't lower their voices when they walked past his old office. Here's what this story is really about. It's not about a man getting what he deserved, though he did. It's not even about Diane's father coming in to save the day, because he didn't. Diane saved herself through one formal complaint and 11 words on a piece of paper. The real story is about what silence costs. Every person who watched Marcus Reed walk those halls and said nothing. They weren't bad people. They were scared people. And fear is a completely understandable thing. But 11 years of fear meant 11 years of other Dianes. Other people slapped, belittled, and made to feel small in a place they worked hard to be. One person decided enough was enough, and the whole thing came apart. There's actually research on this, studies on workplace. Misconduct consistently show that abusive behavior in professional settings, especially from high-ranking individuals, goes unreported over 70% of the time. Not because the behavior isn't recognized as wrong, but because people don't believe anything will change. They've seen others try. They've seen the complaints disappear, so they stop trying. What changed at Riverside General wasn't Diane's father. It was Diane's decision to document, submit, and not back down. That's the part nobody tells you. The system doesn't always protect you, but your paper trail can. One woman, one report, one chain of accountability that couldn't be broken. Marcus Reed thought he had read the room correctly for 11 years. He thought silence meant acceptance. He thought power meant protection. He was wrong about all three. If this story hit you the way it hit me, watch the video that's coming up next. You're not going to want to miss it.